Hello, it's Susan here. Last night I put up a post that was an explanation of week 1 of the 4-week course Elevate that is beginning in mid-November. And I said in there that I will explain a concept that I raised in that post, which is called Disconsos. Week 1 is focused on self-acceptance and also stress reduction. But in the self-acceptance component, I began with the idea of a life map. And, I've done life mapping a lot with my other clients to date. But what I wanted to do was to take it to a deeper level. And strangely enough, I just happened to be re-listening to Clarissa Pinkola Estes' Women Who Run with the Wolves, yet again, as I go for my walks in the morning. And she ends that book with the concept of Disconsos. And I had heard her say it before, and I thought, that is what I need to incorporate. So I've spent some time developing the week 1 around that idea. So what I would like to do is explain to you in Clarissa's words the concept of Disconsos. So I captured the words from the end of the audio. I don't know where it sits in her 600-page book, but the audio is the one that I've listened to, and it's very beautiful listening to her voice actually sharing her book anyway. So if it's something you're after, it's a lovely thing to go through as a woman or man. What she says is, I would like to introduce you to the concept of Disconsos. If you've ever travelled in southern Colorado or Arizona or other parts of the country, especially the South, you see by the roadway little white crosses. And they are sometimes clustered 2, 3, or 4 or 5. Sometimes they're painted on a rock, and sometimes they are decorated profusely with artificial flowers or sometimes real flowers. Sometimes they have people's names inscribed on them. Sometimes they're simply 2 sticks that are tied together and stuck in the ground. I mean, we have them here in Australia as well, but I'd never really applied much meaning apart from knowing that someone had lost their life at that particular point in a road. But what Clarissa says is Disconsos are the markers that someone's journey in life has been halted there at that spot. In other words, there's been a car accident or someone walked along the road and died of heat exhaustion, but something happened that altered that person's life forever. So in that case, it's obviously usually through death. So Clarissa says, now understand me. Women have died 1,000 deaths before they're 20 years old. They've gone in this direction and been cut off, and they've gone in that direction and been cut off, and they've had this hope that has been cut off, and they've had that dream that has been cut off. And yes, that's all grist for the mill, and that has to do with individualization and differentiation and growing up and growing out and blossoming and becoming awake and aware and conscious. And that's all true, but it's also a tragedy at the same time, and it has to be recognized as so. So Disconsos is where you take a look at your life and you see where the small deaths are and the big deaths are. You see where they've been and you mark them with a cross. What she does, and is what we're going to do, is use a very big sheet of paper and make a time graph of your life. And to mark the places along that graph in time, starting with your infancy all the way to the age that you are today. Of where there were roads not taken or paths that were cut off or ambushes or deaths. And then to put a little cross on that timeline, every place where there is a place that should have been mourned or still needs to be mourned. And then put it in the background and forget it. That seems strange, I know, but it is part of the process is to actually let it be and let it go. I encourage you to do Disconsos, to sit down with the timeline of your life and say, where are the crosses? Where are the places that must be remembered, must be blessed? There are meaning in every one of them that you've brought forward into your life today. And they must be remembered, but they must be forgotten at the same time. Because there is a time in all of our lives, and it's usually midlife for a woman, has to make a decision, possibly the most important psychic decision of her life, and that is whether to be bitter or not. Women often come to this in their late 30s and early 40s. Often it's related to not having released a childhood trauma. But they're at the point in their life where they are full up to their ears with everything and they've had it and the last straw has broken the camel's back. The dreams about what could be and should be are all crumpled up and broken. Clarissa's premise is that if a woman at that time, instead of going into human bitterness and all of that, will return to the instinctual feminine nature, the instinctual psyche, she will be revivified and she will be reborn. She finishes with, be gentle with yourself and make the Disconsos, the resting places. The resting places for the parts of you that were on their way to somewhere that they never got to. They mark the death sign. They're also markers of your dark times, but they are also love notes to your suffering, and they are transformative. And there's a lot to be said for pinning things to the earth so they don't follow us around. And that's what the part of this process will be, is about pinning it to the earth. What it really means is laying your rage to rest so that you can create the wild woman. At the very end of it, Clarissa finishes with, forgive a little, forget a little, and create a lot. The grandmothers of your great-great-great-granddaughters will remember you and honour you. Those are beautiful words, and that's, to me, I've taken that into the recipe of the course so that we can cover this in the first session. There will be time between the first session and the first group session. There's also going to be another exercise where you will get to finish this in week 3 as part of a past, present and future mandala art session, and mandala meaning the circle of life. So it's going to be beautiful. It will be a lovely, very gentle process. There's going to be no chance of you feeling like you're not going to be able to do it, or that you won't be able to answer it correctly. There is no right and there's no wrong when it comes to actually working with a life coach, just tell you that. So if you would like to come along, please join me. Please send me a message so that you can get into one of the sessions of 4 people each week. And if you're not going to come along, I hope just by listening to that, maybe the idea of Disconsos is something that you might need to explore or would like to explore now for yourself. So that's also a bit of a gift I would like to give to you today. Thank you so much for listening, and I wish you the best and take care for the week ahead.